As of this past March, we were at 4.27%. We were servicing $438 million worth of debt in Texas, and I just told you at $31 billion, and you're wondering, gosh, this lady's throwing around a lot of numbers. You pay off bonds on a certain schedule. And so last year we were paying off $438 million worth of bonds. It ate up 4.29% of our general revenue. This next year we're paying off $1 billion worth of bonds. Now y'all ought to be doing that math real quick. 438 to $1 billion, that's more than double. We're already at 4.29. That's Enron math. As Rush would say, for those of you in Loma Linda, that's Enron math. The table at the comptroller's office that tracks that and the comptroller's computer system as of 3:30 yesterday afternoon was blank. We are digging hard to find out how on earth is somebody not raising a red flag here and saying we've got a debt service problem in Texas. I'm sure not advocating increasing the constitutional debt limit. What I'm saying is we better get back to limited government. We've cut spending in our homes. We've cut spending in our businesses. And we better start, and I said this just south of here at the Tea Party in April, we better look each other in the eye and say, what is my government doing for me that I ought to be doing for myself, and be willing to cut that spending. I often say it's not going to be the easy thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. When we do that, when we start to cut government spending, when we more proportionally distribute the burden of the necessary revenue that we need across the engine of this economy, rather than loading it all on the back of property owners, we will see the economic engine of Texas begin to churn better. I've talked about that some. For some of you, that's new information. We have been in the state of Texas for the last 2 legislative sessions in particular. We have been arguing about property tax appraisal caps. I'm going to go back to that thing again called the Constitution and some of those underlying principles that our founders understood when they wrote those documents. And one of those is the notion that there are 2 elements essential to freedom: private property ownership and gun ownership. And when you get that, when you let that sink into your mind, then you will not be willing, we cannot be willing to surrender private property and gun ownership. It will be the job of the legislature when we say you can't tax our property, because when we work hard for it, it's ours to own. And if we take ownership away from the worker, he quits working. And that it doesn't matter whether you're an individual or whether you're a business. If the government takes from you what you work for, you produce less. We've got to get the government off of our backs so we keep what we own. We own our property when we buy it, and we'll let the legislature figure out a way. We've given them a few hints. It's property sales tax on a broader base, lower the rate 6.25 to 6.1. But that's an argument for the legislature to have, and it's one that we all need to push our state reps and state senators to have that discussion. We have got to get rid of property tax in Texas, and we can get rid of property tax in Texas and replace it with a broader base sales tax. Those of you that were with us this morning at the press conference in Dallas heard me tell this story. I said the essential elements of freedom are private property ownership and gun ownership, but I had an opportunity earlier this week to interview with a man. He's the editor for a Spanish newspaper in Central Texas, and he immigrated here from Cuba legally 3 years ago. And I thought, man, this is awesome. He's interviewing me, but he didn't know what he's in for. I don't have to just read about what it's like to live in a communist dictatorship. I get to talk to someone who grew up in a communist dictatorship. And I said to him, how long was your family in Cuba? And he said, my father for 4 generations and my mother for 3. I said, how did you get out? He said, I was Christian and I was a missionary to Ecuador, and from Ecuador I immigrated to the United States. And the most profound thing that he said to me, I asked him, if I were to take a picture of you standing on a street in Cuba, and take a picture of you today standing on the street in Austin, Texas, what would be the difference between the man in Cuba and the man in Austin? And he said, the man in Cuba has no dreams. And he went on to say, you cannot plan. You cannot dream about one day I will go here, or one day I will do this. Education is free, healthcare is free, but you have no dreams. You have dreams. I have dreams. And our children deserve to have dreams. Rick Perry has demonstrated that his allegiance is to international business and big pharma. It is not to the people of Texas. It may once have been. And if you've looked at our website, you know we've launched a ballot initiative drive. We understand that political parties can hold elected officials accountable if they want to. We are the party. Those of us that vote in that primary are the party, and if we want to hold officials accountable, we can. And we are calling for term limits to be set up by the Republican Party to say to our elected officials in the Republican Party, you're going to be part of this family. You're going to go into that service for a time, for a limited time. We understand, I said this afternoon, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's a lot of children in this room this evening, and I want to thank you kids for coming and staying out so late. Your parents, and as parents, we protect our children. We will all be forced as parents to put them in situations that can be corrupting, and I bet most of us do that with a great deal of caution. And we don't leave them in those corrupting situations any longer than we have to. We let them go for a little bit because we know that flying too close to that flame, they will get burned and they will compromise and make decisions that they otherwise would not make. It is the responsible thing for us to do as citizens to place our leaders. It's been the question that I have asked most often over the course of the last 2 years as I have found myself not just on a political stage in Wharton County, but over the last 2 years on a political stage that pretty much went from Beaumont to College Station to San Antonio to Corpus Christi, and I was traveling around and speaking in that part of the state. And now for the last 6 months over the whole state of Texas, how do I not become that very thing that I'm fighting against? Because we're all human. James Dobson talks about a study of men that were in Hitler's SS squads. They thought after the war, when they studied these guys, they would find that they were all sociopaths. They found the sociopaths. You're a sociopath, you're one, y'all come with us, we'll put you in the SS squad and we'll let you commit the most heinous crimes of this war. And what they found was they were just like me and you.